Taiwan kicks off its own military drills as China announces an extension to exercises around the island.
I'm Liao here at Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where the Foreign Minister Joseph Wu has said his country is not scared of China.
A plagiarism scandal goes from bad to worse for one of the DPP's mayoral candidates. And Taiwan strikes a deal with Indonesia to help a care system in crisis. But is it too little too late? A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu held a rare press conference on Tuesday. He lambasted China's military aggression following the visit of U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi last week, but said Taiwan was unafraid. Liao reports from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Taipei.
With a series of international media interviews, Joseph Wu has already set a defiant tone in the face of unprecedented military drills from China. The foreign minister has said that Taiwan, a democratic nation of 23 million people, will stand firm to defend its freedoms. On Tuesday, he once again condemned China's actions, calling them a serious provocation and a gross violation of Taiwan's rights. But he said Taiwan will not panic.
When we see the large-scale military exercises and the test of its missiles, it's very concerning. But at the same time, the reaction of the Taiwanese people and the Taiwanese government is that we stay calm and we stay resilient. And as I say to other media outlets, the best way to deal with a regime which is trying to intimidate us is to show that we are not intimidated. When they are trying to scare us, the best way to deal with it is that we are not scared by China.
The large-scale military exercises Wu is referring to are the 4 days of live-fire drills by China in reaction to a visit by US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the highest-level US official to come to Taipei in 25 years. China had warned it would not sit idly by if Pelosi made the trip. China claims Taiwan as its own and protests its engagements on the international stage. China sent dozens of boats, planes and missiles into the waters around Taiwan, disrupting maritime and air traffic. Wu said Pelosi's visit was an excuse for intimidation and that China has its eyes on regional domination.
China is clearly trying to deter other countries from interfering in its attempt to invade Taiwan. Its rehearsal of anti-access and area denial, or A2AD, tactics gives us a clear image of China's geostrategic ambition beyond Taiwan. In other words, China's real intention behind these military exercises is to alter the status quo in the Taiwan Strait and the entire region.
Taiwan's military is now conducting its own drills. They were already planned, but now take on greater urgency as China says it will carry on its exercises. As military action from both sides continue, a clear message from Taiwan's foreign minister. Taiwan will not be intimidated by China. Chris Ma and Liao in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
As mentioned, China says it will continue to hold military drills and exercises around Taiwan, this time with a focus on blockades and resupply logistics. Multiple Chinese warships and fighter jets are still present near Taiwan. That's according to the Defense Ministry here, which reported roughly a dozen Chinese Navy ships and almost 40 military aircraft in the area around the country on Monday. This included more than 20 planes crossing the median line of the Taiwan Strait and flying into the southwestern corner of the island's air defense zone. Taiwan's military says it scrambled its own aircraft and deployed missile defense systems in response to the incursions. The show of military power takes place as Taiwan's kicked off its own live-fire exercises in the south. These drills are held annually, but there is a heightened sense of urgency this time. Howitzers and mortars have been fired from the beaches across the southern county of Pingtung. These drills are specifically designed to test Taiwan's self-defense capabilities in the event of an amphibious invasion. One of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's mayoral candidates in November's local election has had his master's degree revoked for plagiarism. A review panel at National Taiwan University found that Lin Zijian's thesis plagiarized sections from a fellow student. Lin maintains he is innocent. It's not the first scandal to hit Lin. He's been accused of mismanaging the renovation of Hsinchu's baseball stadium when he was mayor of the city. He quit that post to run for mayor of neighboring Taoyuan. The university's head held a press conference to explain the decision.
坚持学术伦理与诚信的标准，维护近百年的学术名誉，社会大众要信任台大处理学术事务的能力，也尊重台大的专业判断。
Taitung County has ordered a construction firm to pay for the restoration of a coral reef it damaged while carrying out port repairs. It's also told the firm that it must make a plan for protecting underwater ecology before resuming work. An area of reef near Green Island about the size of 4 soccer fields was found damaged at the end of July. Some reefs in the area are thought to be more than 1,200 years old. Taiwan recorded 23,000 new COVID-19 cases on Tuesday, one day after seeing the lowest number of infections in over 3 months. As the country's pandemic situation stabilizes, authorities are lifting restrictions on passengers transiting through Taiwan's main airport. Eric Liao has the details.
With the summer travel season heating up and a stabilizing domestic COVID situation, Taiwan is making life a little easier for people transiting through its primary international airport. Transit passengers are no longer restricted to transit lounges and can eat and shop in the arrivals hall. The 12-hour limit on their transit stop has also been lifted, as has a requirement that they be traveling on a single ticket.
国外的旅客来讲，有些人会觉得会比较方便。其实只要有外出的话，都有可能会有这样的风险，所以你不管去哪里，都是自己就是要注意。
The restrictions were eased as Taiwan recorded its lowest number of domestic infections in 100 days. But the BA.5 subvariant is now on the rise.
目前 BA.5 在我们本土的这个占比大概估计来讲，全国的话是5%左右，整个占比是10%所以显示说在北部这边应该是有一些传染链还在这个持续中，社区当中应该有一些多点的一些散发的一些这个传染链。
Health authorities warned that northern parts of Taiwan could soon see a surge in new cases.
台北市这边可能有一点增加了预测是一定会有一波这个上升的疫情了也就是说确诊数应该是会增加，在1到2周之后，我想可能会有这个上升。
To protect themselves from BA.5, health authorities are urging people to follow pandemic prevention guidelines and get vaccinated. Rick Yi and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan depends on vast numbers of migrant workers to power the country's economy and to care for the country's sick and elderly. But those numbers have dropped during the pandemic, leaving thousands of families without support. Now, the government has struck a deal with Indonesia to bring in more migrant caregivers. But some say it's too little too late. Stash Butler reports.
Ms. Wu is a single mother. Her son has severe disabilities and needs round-the-clock care. But Taiwan's dire shortage of care workers means there's no one to provide it.
真的累了，很累很累。我就跟他讲，我是人，不是机器人，就是我没办法跟出去工作了。
Wu is just one of thousands of people struggling to employ a full-time caregiver. And officials say that number could rise.
现在在等待的雇主大概有6.4万人，那我们预估到年底的话，大概会有10万人。
The number of migrant care workers in Taiwan has steadily fallen over the pandemic. At the beginning of 2020, there were over 260,000. Now, that's dropped to just 218,000. That's partly because of a months-long entry ban that ended last year. But it's also because Indonesia, the biggest source of caregivers, stopped giving new permits to workers in March in a row over placement fees.
客户都卡在那边，因为4个月到好几个月了嘛，都没有入境。在台湾的看护工，他也会打电话来问说，我的薪水有没有调整？对，那我是可能就是直接一些客户会直接联络，也希望他们能够赚多一点钱，能够然后我们一些客户也不要缺工。
Now, Taiwan says it's struck a deal. Indonesia will start giving permits again, and Taiwan will raise caregivers' minimum wage. Right now, migrant workers working in Taiwan's electronics industry get the same minimum wage as local residents, $840 a month. But for live-in caregivers, the minimum is much lower. They're only guaranteed $570. Taiwan's offering to raise that to 670. Authorities say they'll offer subsidies to help families pay the higher wages. But brokers say as long as the wages are higher, caregivers will leave to work in factories. And rights groups say Taiwan's system hurts caregivers and the families they're looking after.
家庭看护工的劳动条件很糟，导致于疫情期间如果可转换的看护工会想到厂工去做。政府签了这么多国际公约，你怎么可以不担起就是跨国劳动力的安全流动的被剥削？
Taiwan's care system is in crisis. And while the government works to find a solution, people like Ms. Wu and her son have no choice but to keep going and hope help comes their way soon. Patrick Chen and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
Stay with us here on Taiwan Plus. Coming up, the 58-year-old runner taking on the world's longest race with some very unconventional footwear.
This is 我们台湾人要送给台湾的礼物。
我们都清楚，我们都在一起。 在完成一件事情。
这是我们的根。
Welcome back. You're watching Taiwan Plus News. At least 7 people have been killed following heavy flooding around South Korea's capital, Seoul. Record-breaking rainfall has inundated the city's streets and subway stations. Power outages have also been reported. Hourly rainfall reached 141 millimeters in parts of the capital. It's the worst storm to hit the city since records began. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has said the FBI, America's domestic intelligence agency, has raided his Florida home. Trump said in a statement that his Mar-a-Lago estate was, quote, under siege by a large group of FBI agents, adding that nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. Trump was in New York at the time of the raid. U.S. media are widely reporting that the raid is related to an investigation into Trump's alleged unlawful removal and destruction of White House documents at the end of his presidency. A 58-year-old athlete from Taiwan is training to win an ultramarathon that crosses nearly 5,000 kilometers. His plan is to win the race wearing the footwear he always runs in, a simple pair of sandals. John Van Trieste has more.
Luo Wei-ming is going on 60, but he's never slowed down his pace. He is an ultramarathon runner known for running all his events in sandals. His trademark footwear has left visible tan lines after hours of training. Luo's goal is to win the world's longest foot race, the Self-Transcendence 3,100 mile. The race takes place each year over several weeks and involves thousands of laps around a block in New York City. Luo had his debut in the race last year, becoming the first Asian to finish the course. He came second in a time of 48.5 days. This year, he's heading back to try for first place. Luo's in the front of the pack when it comes to his age, but he says he has something that sets him apart from his younger competitors.
他们20岁就开始跑了，他们是赛事的经验，但我的经验是什么？慢工出里程。我年纪最大，但是我抱着最谦卑的心情，跟这些冠军们学习。
Luo is particular about the conditions he trains in.
气候温差的问题都很严重。第一年去的时候，我就觉得说，我们七星山不错，高低温差来看。到后来我去那边，确实有很大的帮助。这是特别选河滨，每天12个小时，看能不能跑80公里。
But Luo is one of only 52 people who've ever made it the whole way through. By finishing the race alone, he's already proven that grit and determination know no age limits. Asnaya Zhou and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
You'd think the heir of a family coffee business would quite easily become an international barista champion with all of that support behind him. But Wang Ce's journey to the top wasn't an easy one. Here's his story.
Ce's family has been in the coffee business for over 20 years. His father is known as the B2B king of coffee. When he was 12 years old, his parents sent him to the UK.
很多人都说他们是把我丢在那里。他们来的，就是我在那边12年，他们来的次数大概都是一只手的次数而已。对。
He must have been a strong child who knew how to take care of himself. He took his father's advice and pursued a master's degree in food safety management, and later enrolled in a Le Cordon Bleu institution.
你会发现，我是真的很注重食品安全的人，就是我试喝一次，我就把汤匙丢进去，我不会再用，就是它不会再进到里面去。对，然后我的台面永远都是干的。
He's a little worked up because his coach Yoshikazu Iwase taught him the importance of cleanliness. Wang Ce said that Mr. Iwase, a two-time Japan Barista champion, was the one who showed him that coffee can bring people together. Because he spoke English well, he visited a coffee plantation on behalf of his father, although he was still just a novice.
那个时候还有5位国际咖啡师，不同国家的，然后有2个世界冠军也在其中。然后那个时候我是唯一一个咖啡小白，对。然后我就有点，其实跟他们出去，我心里我不太舒服，就是你们好像都很厉害，然后就是我就什么都不会。
One of the world champions was Stefanos, Wang Ce's other coach, the man who sparked Wang Ce's interest in coffee with his passion. He was the one who drew him in by showing him that the fermentation of coffee actually has to do with microbiology.
然后我教练就说：“你知道，就是我是14年的冠军嘛。”然后他就说：“我其实有一个梦想，是我想要再带出一个冠军。那我觉得亚洲是未来很有机会的市场。”他说：“你愿不愿意试试看？我可以当你的教练。”然后我想说：“就是我喜欢学东西嘛。”他说：“有冠军愿意教我，那我当然试试看啊，反正我没什么好损失的。”
And just like that, Wang Ce threw himself into the world of coffee. He wasn't late, but he only won 3rd place.
Today I wish to connect the coffee, the barista, and the guest. First,
Wang Ce says that after the 2016 championship, even his father and stepmother were split over whether he should compete again, or just open a shop on the back of the already pretty good results.
还有一点，还有很感动我的是我教练，因为我教练跟我说，他作为一个在比赛产业里面工作很久的教练，他没有看过像我这么努力的咖啡师。他很希望，他觉得我值得拿到世界冠军，他想要就是跟我一起再努力一次试试看。对。
Their hard work proved rewarding. After the results of the 2017 World Brewers Cup were announced, one of the judges told Wang Ce that his coffee was almost too perfect to be true. But not many people were interested in learning about the effort he put in before the contest.
你们给我贴的这些标签，就是全部我都承受住了。我也花了时间去练这个比赛了，然后我把奖杯拿回来了。就是如果有人质疑说这个比赛是可以操作的，那我完全否定。这个是我非常郑重否定的。我们比赛非常公正，这些国际评审他不鸟你的王力咖啡，对他们都来自大公司，他们全部都有背景，谁鸟你啊？对啊。
Even the coffee king could not persuade his son to not open a coffee shop.
拥有一个自己的店面、自己的品牌，就是我可以最理想化的去呈现我喜欢的咖啡，还有我喜欢的生活，跟我的一些其他背后的想法。我希望可以拉近客人跟客人之间的距离，就是他或许在旁边坐的都会是一群 比较陌生的人，可是他们来到这里，他们都是 focus 因为咖啡而来。
However, this is very different from the noisy coffee shops his father is known for. His father's company values fast services, but it took Wang Ce 15 months from planning the shop to seeing its soft launch.
一开始的时候，他提供我们很多套模组，他就觉得你就用就好啦，就是你用的设备都是这些啊，你就是3个月他就可以开一家店。
Just like at the World Brewers Cup, he vigorously rejected his father's suggestions.
那我的想法是，就是如果我要这样子的话，我去比赛干嘛？我干嘛不从英国回来，我就直接让你帮我开一家店就好了，对不对？那我既然都用时间跟精神跟我自己的双手去理解咖啡这个东西了，我现在拥有技术，我现在拥有头衔，我当然应该要自己去发挥这个东西，因为如果我没有发挥，等于就是我前面比赛的这一段我是可以省略的。
At that time, his father didn't think that he valued his extensive experience in the business, and they went through a rough patch. But his design for the bar would have baristas working under beams and stairs.
爸爸那个时候他们的想法就是说，这样子的空间，如果你是这样操作的话，你会有一个很美的空间在前面，没错。可是他觉得你没有办法吸引，就是路过的客人，他没有办法知道你这里到底是在干什么的，对，所以2种考量啦。最后我们把咖啡师放在最前面，确实就是它拉近了人跟人客人跟咖啡师之间的距离。就是我们的咖啡师在这边，他们甚至可以跟路人打招呼，这都没有问题。所以后来大家工作起来都蛮开心的。然后一点点，对。
He realized that in addition to good equipment and choice beans, people's interactions can also help coffee taste better, and this not only applies to competitions. Coffee has more or less changed his mindset too. He has come to terms with the fact that his life will invariably be filled by coffee.
The swinho pheasant is known as Taiwan's most beautiful bird. Once on the brink of extinction, the species has made a comeback and can be seen in the country's mountains and forests. We take a look at this spectacular bird in Formosa Forevermore, a special series exclusively on TaiwanPlus.
In the morning's bamboo forest, Taiwan's most beautiful bird, a swinho's pheasant, appears gracefully. The male bird's splendor not only shines through its sapphire feathers, but also through its unique dance moves, often called an Indian mating dance. However, while the male bird's dance is fancy, it still does not guarantee reaping the beauty's affection every time. Thankfully, it is still February and early spring. Courtship season has just started. The courtship season that follows continues all the way till July, so the male bird still has many opportunities. One of the biggest features on a male swinho pheasant's face is a bright red wattle, which engorges and enlarges when excited. The female pheasant's face has just a small patch of bare skin, while its feathers appear very modest. Unlike the male pheasants, which are sapphire all over with a streak of snow-white central tail feather extending for as long as 40 centimeters. They live in forests between 300 to 2,300 meters of altitude in Taiwan and are endemic to Taiwan. In 1862, English consul in Formosa and naturalist Robert Swinhoe first discovered them and brought a specimen back to England so ornithologist John Gould could present it as a new species, naming it Swinhoe's pheasant, one of the first Taiwanese birds introduced to Westerners. Later, Swinhoe brought some live pheasants back to England and successfully bred them. In 1967, just as the population of Swinhoe's pheasants decreased drastically due to hunting and habitat destruction, the English sent 15 pairs of Swinhoe's pheasant offspring back to Taiwan for release, which later became a famous story. Fortunately, in the past 2 decades, as the Taiwanese became aware of wildlife conservation, their population gradually recovered. So nowadays, when one walks into Taiwan's mountains and forests in the early morning or at dusk, there is a chance of encountering them, or even seeing entire families strolling on the edge of forests and eating. What a great feeling.
Authorities in France are contemplating what to do with a whale that is stuck in the Seine River that runs through the heart of Paris. They are considering whether to transport the mammal back to sea. The beluga whale, which normally lives in Arctic waters, swam into the river from the English Channel last week. It's been refusing food and is visibly malnourished. The whale's being held in a shipping lock and has been given vitamins and antibiotics. The pressure is on to move the whale because experts say it shouldn't stay too long in the warm water of the lock gates. Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. Finally, we leave you with images of the first licensed camel riding school in the United Arab Emirates. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.